Hi there, I'm Pony. What? You guys are back? But you're not due for another couple of years. I'll see you after the intro. Hi, I'm Pony Horton. Welcome to Pony's Transmission. I'm old, I'm trans, get off my lawn. Well, this is week 7 of my estrogen treatments. And so far, not a lot of extreme changes to report. As I reported last week, my nipples themselves are enlarging. Now there's some development in the areolas. The nipples are about the size of pencil erasers now, and they definitely feel tender to the touch. So that's happening. Otherwise, not a lot to report at the moment. But again, that's the way it is when you're doing changes with estrogen. So now, time for Pony's Show and Tell. Okay, you can leave now. It's so persistent. Okay. Yeah, ASB dispatches to Ashby. Yeah, I need you to send out 1409 as a special. Yeah, we've got just a little bit to hook onto it. It needs to be hauled back out of here and haul it back up to Highland. Roger that. 1409 to Ashby Highland at 1820 RNT. Thank you. There we go. Come on. And haul on out. See you on the hump at Taylor, 1409. At least in the old days. Now, the first thing you might notice for show and tell is the t-shirt that I'm wearing. Star Trek Phase 2. Star Trek New Voyages Phase 2. It's a fan film project that became possibly one of the best Star Trek fan projects in existence. I was proud to be the visual effects supervisor on that show for about 8 episodes. I created shots like this. My specialty was the transporter effect. I used the original method used by Hugh Wade and the people at Vanderveer Photo Effects when they created it. Alka-Seltzer in hot water, not glitter. Alka-Seltzer. You also might have noticed this new picture back here that wasn't there last week. This is a picture shot from the driveway of where I used to live. I used to have a ranch that I called Starbase 6. In my opinion, it was one of the most beautiful places I've ever had the privilege to live. It was in the mountains of Soledad Canyon. It was right next to the filming location for The Last Starfighter. It was a beautiful 10-acre ranch with a geodesic dome house. And it was one of the most beautiful homes I've ever lived in. It had a huge barn which I was able to use as a shooting stage for my Mulholland movie, and I was able to shoot scenes for the movie such as these. Taking advantage of every aspect of both the interior and the exterior of the place. Anyway, so what we're going to be talking about today is the speed of transition. Now, you'll notice I'm not wearing any makeup tonight. Right now, nothing. I'm just as plain as when I wake up out of bed. And this can be important for some people depending upon what they're experiencing in their transition. Now, as much as my little opening gag and the internet might make it seem as though it's like a magical overnight transformation, the reality is that hormone replacement therapy, especially for those of us over the age of 50 and 60, it's a waiting game. Today we're talking about the art of the gradual reveal. Now, obviously, I know you're going to have a natural excitement and impatience when your little lips start to pop up. Suddenly, you're going to want boom. and you're going to want to see a lot of changes fast. It doesn't really work that way. Somebody said it's less of a light switch and more of a dimmer dial, and others have said it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So be prepared for that. You're going to be looking at anywhere between 2 to 5 years for the changes to finally settle in. You can expect your breast growth to happen within the first 2 to 3 years. By 5 years, it'll have settled up. But most people will get their breast augmentation around 2 to 3 years if they feel the need for it. One thing that's an interesting situation in my case, and I don't know if it's for you or not, I live in a small town, Tehachapi, California, and there's a massive psychological advantage to a slow timeline in a small town, especially if the people in the community know you, if you make your presence known at like the local theater, the local train station, the local brewery, the local diner. And if suddenly, you walk in there, instantly with, huge boobs and makeup and wig and everything, you're going to shock the daylights out of people. You need a gradual, slow change. It has to happen incrementally, and because of this incremental change, the people at the local grocery store or diner or train station or brewery will accept the changes that they see in you because it'll take place over a long period. By the time they, realize what's happening, the big reveal has already happened in slow motion. So now let's talk about some of the ways in which you can begin your presentation transformation. One of the first ways might be jewelry. There. It's not a giant change, but it's a change. Now, you can see these hoops are obviously of exaggerated sizes in my preference. However, even if you start with small little half-inch hoops or something tasteful. I started tasteful, but I started moving towards loud over the years. So, you can see, and the jewelry matches, and there's a theme in my case. The theme is silver and chrome. So that would be possibly one way to start. And see, while the hormones do their slow work in the background, you'll have time to master elements under your control, such as, for example, fingernails. These are among the first steps that I took as I was transitioning and becoming more and more comfortable with presenting in a more feminine role. I'm using my phone for my notes here. That's why I keep looking down at it. This gives you time. Not only does it give the people where you live time to accept and understand what you're doing, but it also gives you time to feel comfortable presenting that way. And that's one of the most important aspects. If you can walk out with your head high and your shoulders back, people will respect you, most of the time anyways. And at the very least, you'll have, a right to feel proud of yourself because you're presenting as your authentic self. So as you get further along, you may end up experimenting with things like you're in full makeup because you've eased your way into it rather than leaping all of a sudden at once. And easing your way into it allows you, on a slow timeline, as kind of a runway to build confidence and refine your style. I like this smoky-eyed look style. Didn't take too long to arrive at it. I like the chrome. As you can see, I've got these accents. Finally, like this. Your full presentation. Full face of makeup, lipstick, eye makeup, and you'll have your boobs, your real boobs. And even if they're enhanced, they'll be yours. It'll have been 2 years, though. You're not going to startle a day and night set of anybody suddenly showing up like this when you didn't have that the day before. It'll seem natural, even if these don't at the moment. In any event, that's been the show for tonight. As I say, we've talked about the idea of coming out in a small town situation where you may know people a lot more. In some cases, it might actually be easier, too, because they may accept you, as compared to being in a big city where you're more anonymous and you're meeting strangers constantly. In a small town, you actually have, a kind of a protection of friends and people who will hopefully accept you as you are. And so, at least that's what seems to be happening for me here in my small town of Tehachapi, California. So with that, I want to say thank you again for joining me this evening for Pony's Transmission. And I didn't do too bad with that makeup, but I think I need a little setting powder. So you have a wonderful time, and we'll see you next week. Let's get some of this powder on here. kind of powder is this? What? Acme? Huh.